Hello, and thank you for joining this morning's Live on ServiceNow event, Empowering Your Team Through Collaborative Work Management. I'm Irene Beath. I'm an outbound product manager, and we also have Lillian Yang, our inbound product manager, on the call. We're going to look at how ServiceNow's collaborative work management can increase your team's productivity by bringing teams together to get work done. First, let's take a look at our agenda. We'll begin by looking at My Work, a new feature of CWM, and how that can increase productivity for teams using CWM or SPM. Then we'll jump right into a demo. After that, we'll talk about how to get started, go through a couple use cases, discuss our product roadmap, and then end with a Q&A. Feel free to put Q&A in the chat throughout the presentation as well. And sorry, not in the chat, in the Q&A feature. So many of you have probably already seen a demo of CWM, but in case you're unfamiliar, CWM or Collaborative Work Management is a solution that provides a central hub for knowledge workers to plan, visualize, and collaborate on work with their team. CWM includes task boards, collaborative docs, simple automations, and My Work. In this section, we're going to mainly focus on how My Work because that can bring value to your teams, even if they aren't ready to start using CWM yet. My Work can still help your users manage their tasks from SPM. So why should teams use My Work? Too often, the work we have to do is managed in separate, disjointed tools, leaving you with only fragments of the full picture of your workload. You know that work is all out there, but it's hard to grasp how it all connects and how you should prioritize your time. Teams need a tool that brings all of their work into focus, and that tool is My Work. Tasks from across SPM projects, demands, RIDAC, stories, and collaborative work management come together in one unified view. You can see your entire workload and manage your time more efficiently. Finally, the full picture is clear, helping you stay organized, focused, and in control. So again, a little bit more about My Work. It's sort of like you could think of it as a funnel that's bringing all of your work from across CWM and SPM into one single pane of glass, helping you focus your time onto what's the most critical work, understand your full workload, and never miss a deadline. All right, and with that, we'll jump right into a demonstration. All right, so this is My Work. As you can see, it's a dashboard view that is going to help me focus on my work across multiple spaces. So here we can filter for different work types. You can see I have work from CWM, and this will include tasks, defects, as well as custom work item types. And then we also have several types of work from SPM, including project, demands, RIDAC, and stories. I can also filter it by date to focus on just a certain time range. And then I have these helpful widgets that help me grasp my progress of work, how much critical work I have out there, and what I should focus on. I can also see all of this work in a list view. From this list view, I can do things like sort by priority. And I also can click on each task to open a pop-up module, as well as click on the source here, and that's going to take me directly to either the project, the epic, the demand, or the CWM board that's related to this task. So I can see that work in context. So first, I'm going to focus on my overdue tasks. Again, let me sort this by priority, and I'll drop down into these tasks I have open here, my highest priority overdue tasks. So I have a decision out here to determine the cutover date. And I can quickly both see and edit the key details of this decision. I'm going to go ahead and change this decision to closed, set it as approve, and I can even add a comment here about the date that we decided. And then I'll save my changes. I can do the same with this demand task here. And I can see, again, the key dates. I can edit some important information, add work notes, description, comments, even see attachments. or I could have clicked into the source and that would have taken me directly to the related demand here. But you can see that I have this new task here for create a CWM board for next year's policy review, and that's related to a CWM board. So I'm going to go directly into that CWM board, and we'll talk a little bit more about CWM in general. So as you can see, under my work, I also have my spaces. Spaces are a place where teams or can collaborate on work that they have to do. And this is a board. So it's a flexible task manager where I can easily create tasks, custom columns, and other data. I can see this work in a list view, as well as a Gantt view, or a Kanban. And from this Kanban board, I can drag and drop to change different states. I could also change the swim lane here as well. Going back to this list view, so this space here is about our annual IT training and policy review. And so each year I have to create a new training and policy review board, and I will do the task related to that. So I can see I have a task even here to remind me to do that. And this is going to be really easy with this new duplicate feature. So I'm going to duplicate this board. I'll rename it to the 2025 IT Training and Policy Review. And when I duplicate this board, it's going to reset the states to open. It's going to shift the dates over and reset a couple fields here. But I don't have to start from scratch, and I'm ready to get started on planning for next year's training. I also got some feedback last year that would be helpful to have an approval workflow. So I can create a very simple approval workflow all from here. So I'm first going to create a people column. I'll call this approvers, and I could limit it to all users, just users in the space, or a custom set of users. And I can also make it a multi-select field if I'd like. So I'll just make this a single select. So now I can add a column for approver, and I can start tagging the approvers for each of my tasks. I'm also going to add a custom column for approval status. And I'm doing this all just as a typical CWM user. I don't need any special permissions, and I don't need to ask an admin for help to do this. These columns are also going to be unique to this space. So now I have my approver and the approval state. And then the last thing I'm going to do to make this approval workflow is I'm going to add an automation. So I want to make the automation that when a field changes, I'll send a notification. So I'll say that when the state changes to close complete, and I can add another condition, and the approval status is pending, I'll send a notification to who's ever in that approver column. So very quickly and easily, without any admin support, I'm able to build a workflow into this to make sure that my team is staying on top of all of the tasks that they have to do. You can also add reference columns. So this will allow me to pull data in from any other table in ServiceNow that I have access to. So for example, let's say there's a related story to some of these. I can then go in and grab the story table. And then I can search for stories and link related stories to these tasks. Let's talk a little bit about the docs component now. So these docs components are a rich text document where I can add colors, I can make headings, I can insert images in here as well. But what's also really cool is that I can tag other users. So for example, I could tag Arav, and I could ask him to please review. And then not only can I tag people, but I can also tag records. So I can use the slash button to say mention a record. And then with a simple property, I can enable multiple different types of tables to be referenced within docs. So right now I just have CWM tasks or incidents, but I'll select CWM task, and I'll select the related policy here. So this acceptable use policy task. This is really going to help teams be able to work in a collaborative and kind of flexible way within CWM, but then also reference work that's happening elsewhere and see how that connects to other data across the ServiceNow platform. All right, I'll pause here for any questions. So what's the maximum number of columns you can add as custom in the space? And I believe it's 90 columns per space.
Yes, 90 columns that you can create in each space.
And then when we update the task, is the PM aware of the changes, and how can the PM be monitoring the changes to apply them once the project WS in the planning console? So these tasks are sorry, if we're talking about my work and we're updating a project task, any updates you make here are going to reflect back on that project task. So it will be updated within the project workspace as well. You just don't have to be constantly jumping into multiple projects to go do your work. If it's just kind of a quick update, you can make that from within my work.
Can we link to existing docs like Google Sheets to tasks or events? I would suggest the URL column if we could demonstrate that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll create a custom column and we have a URL type. And then you could just say that this, link or link to document. And then you can add your links here to tag them that way.
Great.
And so this is great. We use a similar setup for kind of like making an asset library on here very quickly, where you can link out to multiple systems where your doc kind of might be all over the place, but you just have one place to go as a starting point to find everything.
Another question on what happens if a resource is updating a task that multiple resources are working on?
So there's real-time collaboration here. And then on the documents, it will only one person can edit at a time to prevent overwrite. So it'll lock it for one person and the other are view only.
So, and to dive deeper into that, it depends on, so if we're updating tasks in CWM boards, we do have a way to define the access level of team members. So when we share the board, we can show that quickly. We can define whether a collaborator is an editor or a viewer, so you can restrict who gets to update the tasks in CWM. When it's a project task or other tasks in my work, it depends on the access that you've given those users. So for example, for a project user role versus a project manager or a demand requester, demand user. So those are still in place.
All right. Okay, any others we want to tackle or can we move back to the presentation?
We'll move back to the presentation and we'll
Okay.
continue to answer those questions online, but off in the chat, but please continue submitting them.
All right, thanks, Lillian. All right, so to recap a little bit about some of the advantages of ServiceNow CWM. So one is that it keeps all of your work in one place with a single solution to reduce tool switching for your teams. It also lets you leverage that existing network of connected data. So being able to leverage your existing groups, your existing stories, and really build upon that and it kind of expand that network of data. And then last, it allows teams are able to adapt CWM to the way they work and not the other way around. They're able to quickly create their own workflows, their own custom columns, and they don't need to be fitting into the requirements of a specific tool or constantly reaching out to an administrator to create customizations. So all of this means increased employee satisfaction, improved productivity, and faster value delivery. So who has access to CWM? So the short answer is anybody with either a CWM or an SPM license. So CWM is available as a standalone entitlement, or it's also included in the SPM entitlements, both for SPM Standard and SPM Pro. And then my work is a component of CWM. So it's available for, again, both CWM and SPM users. But the actual work types that you'll see in CWM are going to be determined based off the license. So if you have CWM only, you'll be able to see CWM tasks as well as stories if you're using like Agile 2.0. But if you have SPM, that's where you'll also see those project tasks, demand, RIDAC, etc. And then to get started with CWM, it's very easy. It really only takes, up to 5 minutes to do. We have our quick start guide here, which you can get by scanning the QR code. We'll also put it in the chat. And the implementation itself is really only 2 required steps and then a couple more optional steps, taking it that are very simple and only take a couple minutes. We have a walkthrough video to help you with that. And again, if you have SPM, you're already entitled to this. So you can go ahead and download the plugin and start assigning the roles and using it today. So you may be kind of wondering what's the difference between CWM, project workspace, strategic, or portfolio planning workspace, and kind of where each work type fits into which solution. So for CWM, this is going to be your things that are more flexible, lightweight task tracking, where you want to create shared documents, and you're really focusing on ease of use, ease of setup, allowing your end users to make the configuration changes themselves. You want to use list scan Kanban views, and these are for initiatives that do not require resource or financial planning. So think about things where you want to get up, get moving fast, and you're not too worried about how much structure you're putting in there. Again, you're not using the resources or financial plannings. If you are using resource or financial plannings, or if you required more structured work, like WBS level, baselines, or dependencies, that's where you're going to want to use Project Workspace. You'll also have built into Project Workspace RIDAC and status reports, and you're mainly using this kind of Gantt view within the Project Workspace. And then for the strategic or portfolio planning workspace, this is going to be for your more like long-term initiatives. And this is actually going to encompass other planning item types such as projects, demands, epics, and CWM boards can also be serviced within SPW or PPW. Within this workspace, you'll also be using the goal framework, so goal and target setting, and you have your roadmap, Kanban, and list views. Again, you can also manage product feedback, and then we also have enterprise agile planning within SPW as well. To provide you a couple more example use cases, we also, so for CWM, these could be things like problem resolution, it could be server IT management, process implementation. So think about kind of maybe ad hoc operational work, those kind of things. But then as we increase in more scale, if we have more complexity, or if we need a greater level of control, that type of work is going to land more into project workspace. So some examples here could include digital transformation initiatives, software implementation projects, cybersecurity projects, compliance regulatory projects, anything that's a little bit more structured. And then portfolios could encompass both CWM boards as well as projects, but they can also include demands and epics as well. And so portfolios are more long-term, strategic, encompassing multiple work types. And those examples could be kind of overarching business transformation portfolios, operational efficiency, sustainability initiatives. All right, I'll hand it to Lillian to discuss our product roadmap.
Thank you, Irene. Super excited to share what we're building in the next few releases. So we are introducing a new template center for boards and docs so that you can streamline repeatable business processes with templates. So you'll be able to create custom templates for your teams for boards or docs, and that will allow you to quickly set up and plan for new initiatives and align your team members on centralized processes. And we'll also be introducing board views, which are custom views that you can create for yourself or your team based on the work you're doing and the audience you're serving. So, for example, if you want to have particular custom columns displayed, filters, or sort, you'll be able to save them and quickly switch between the views depending on the purpose or the audience. For example, for myself, I like to take my board and filter it to all tasks that are assigned to me and create that as a personal view. But for my team view, I like to sort my tasks by priority and surface up custom columns we've created, such as go live dates, and save that so that everyone sees the same data at the same time. And we're also bringing some exporting capabilities. You'll be able to export your board into CSV or Excel so that you can transform the data and perform additional analysis on your work, or create PDF files from your documents to share with your external stakeholders. And we're also extending CWM to support agile planning so that you can plan your work in an agile manner using sprint planning methods or Kanban. You'll be able to execute on agile work and also manage both planned and unplanned work with a unified backlog experience.
All right. That's great. Thank
And
you, Lillian.
thank you.
All right, so we have a couple of best practices that we want to share. These are again in our quick start guide, which you can find a link to in the chat or you can scan here. So obviously collaborative work management, collaboration's in the name. It works best when you have a lot of users on it and multiple teams that you can all be kind of working together. So we have a couple of suggestions to help build awareness and adoption within your organization to encourage teams to give CWM a try. So the first is to assign CWM licenses to groups rather than individuals. This is also to save a lot of admin efforts that you're not constantly adding individuals to the CWM role. There's also a way to set up a workflow to respond to access requests because end users can request access themselves within the product. And so we've set up a sample workflow that you can use to get started and then tailor to your organization as needed. We definitely recommend sending out communications to let employees know that they have access to CWM and share some resources to explain it. We have great videos on YouTube that you can leverage that explain how to use CWM. And then you can also think about other ways to make it easy to access, like adding to quick links or to applications like Okta. And then another idea is to add a banner to your instance or employee portal to, again, help increase that awareness of CWM within your organization. If you'd like to get involved more in our design process, see early designs and test beta instances, we encourage you to join our design partner program. This is the best way for you to see what's coming and also for you all to actually influence our roadmap and for us to make sure that we're making the best possible product for you.